Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a US election live stream special where I'm just going to probably not speak to you for too long because it's just me on my lonesome and it's a bit more difficult when I've got no one to bounce off. But I just thought I'd share a number of different nuggets of information with you from what I'm gleaning kind of live. I have a few interactive maps that show some interesting results coming in already, actually, in places like Indiana and Kentucky, early results that might already show a bit of a shift towards one of the nominees. So it is, as someone's already said, these are anxious times if you are as obsessed with this election as I am. I think there's, for me, I mean, you guys know what my political positioning is anyway and who I want to win. I do want Kamala Harris to win for domestic policy reasons and for international foreign policy reasons, very much so with regard to things like the Ukraine war. Whether she will make all the right decisions, whether she will be exactly what I want her to be concerning the Ukraine war is a bit of an unknown, to be honest. But I am absolutely adamant she'd be far better than the alternative. So for me, that part of the equation was a no-brainer. But anyway, so I have my biases. I am going to be somewhat victim to kind of wish casting, what I want to be true, uh, what yeah, the fallacy of simply wanting something to be true, and therefore that colors my interpretation of data, and that will certainly be something to consider. But I think when data comes out, you can't really argue with that, unless, of course, you're Donald Trump and want to argue with the data of election results. But yeah, it's going to be an up and down night. I will probably keep an eye on this for the next hour or so. There'll be some early results to be declared fairly soon. It depends how quick they are at counting. There are results coming through already, trickling through. What you will get is an up and down because certain states will do things differently. So they might count absentee ballots or mail-in ballots, early votes at different stage to other states. And then on the day, election day, votes might be counted in a different order, or you might get dumps of urban votes, really high density areas coming in these big dumps, and then that shifts one way or the other. So you'll basically find that rural counties will count quite easily. They're quite quick to count because there's not many people in them, and they will skew Republican. In fact, let's go and have a little look at that already. So we get the if I move my ugly mug over to here, and we look at the, what map do we have here? So this is the decision desk HQ. Now, unfortunately, it's really irritating, but on, as you can see, quite a few votes have come in already, and yeah, that is what's going on already. Ooh, Vermont. So we have results coming in these different areas. Indiana, we have, my goodness, is that already okay? So this is what's going on in Indiana now. Unfortunately, I can't see on this iteration of the DDHQ. I can't see what the previous election was. I was just looking at Brian Tyler Cohen, and he had, when he hovers over it, he's obviously got, probably paid for some version of it that shows the previous election. And even with these red states, red counties, sorry, what he was looking at appeared to show a shift in a place that's, this is clearly going to be a win for Donald Trump, okay, as a state. But even say Hamilton was a district or a county that Trump won by in the 2020 election by 7 points, and you got Kamala Harris above by 1.2 points at the moment, only 55% in. But there's evidence, but it depends, depends on which part of these states gets counted first, etc., etc. But there was evidence, it appears, that there's a shift towards Kamala Harris from Biden in all of these rural counties. Now, if that's the case in a place like Indiana, then that's very interesting because it shows already that there is a shift in the results towards Kamala Harris. Now, if that's happening in a locked-in Republican stronghold like Indiana, then what does that say about all these other places and the swing states, the battleground states? So that's a bit of um, an interesting nugget there. Right, we're going to look at some turnouts. Uh, we'll go to the turnout topic and look at a few bits of information concerning the turnout. Now, generally speaking, if there is a huge turnout, it will favor the Democrats. And also, what is worth considering, I mean, if we look at the map and what I've predicted. So let's put my predictions up here, which is I think Nevada will go Democrat. I think Arizona will go Republican. I think Georgia. These are so tight though, and really could go either way. But I have predicted both Georgia and North Carolina going Democratic. Wisconsin will go Democratic, I think, a little bit more easily, and Michigan will go Democratic as well. And I think Pennsylvania will go towards the Democrats too. And that's the key. So Pennsylvania is the key one. So that's my prediction. But there is a range of predictions, which is a very tight Trump win to really quite a good Harris win. And the good Harris win end of the spectrum would be as a result of a swing right across the board where you could actually get someone like Arizona thrown in. Iowa, some people are, or like Brian Tyler Cohen, for example, has predicted Iowa to actually swing in the way that and Seltzer has said, and that the Democrats would win Iowa. And there is some evidence to suggest that could happen. We are seeing some record turnouts already in places like there's talk about Ohio having record turnouts, so on and so forth. So we'll see how it goes. Now let's talk about turnout then. So first of all, wow, Pennsylvania phone bank I'm on right now, among hundreds, just announced that we've called every outstanding mail-in voter in the state twice. And this goes back to what I said earlier. If you caught my earlier videos, that the ground game for the Democrats, particularly in these battleground states, Pennsylvania, they were averaging 2,000 door knocks a minute on Saturday. They've absolutely hammered Pennsylvania with the ground game. And as I said earlier, the Republicans have literally no ground game. They are not door knocking. They outsourced it. It all fell apart. It is not been a good part of their campaign at all. They are without the ground game. Advertising, they've been at a disadvantage due to fundraising being better for the Democrats. And I think the momentum has been in the Democrats' favor. And I think the messaging has also been in the Democrats' favor. It didn't need to be, because actually, if you think about the megaphone that the Republicans have with regard to Twitter and with regard to Fox News, they should easily be able to control the information spaces, broadly speaking, right? There's an awful lot of people. There are an awful lot of people that watch Fox News who aren't necessarily dyed-in-the-wool Republicans. There's a lot of people watching. There are different times of the day on Fox News that will be much more partisan than other times of the day. There will be different shows that will, Hannity is going to be different from their bog standard news show. Although more and more it seems to skew towards the GOP. There are some, a few people like Neil Cavuto and others who are maybe a little bit different. But Fox News, does have a huge audience, a huge reach, and it can kind of control the narrative. So the Republicans should have been in a position over the last month to do a really good job of gaining momentum. But what's happened is the rallies have fallen flat. Trump has fallen flat, like low energy, low enthusiasm. The crowds are low enthusiasm, and they've failed to get real viral moments and moments that even Fox News can shout about. And then you have Madison Square Gardens and the absolute, basically, excuse my French, but shit show that was, and the own goal it was right at a key moment, the closing arguments phase of the campaign. and they've lost the opportunity to control the narrative. Absolute disaster from a campaign point of view. And so they have handed some gifts to the Democrats, and I think the Democrats should be in a good position. It depends on the turnout, which is why turnout is so bloody important. So the Democrats have eked out these advantages in different areas, and they are using them to a good degree, it seems. So because looking at turnout being off the charts across Michigan, according to this source, and Provenance, I don't know, but if turnout is off the charts and it is being driven by particularly young people and women, and in certain places like North Carolina and Georgia, which are sort of 31% black as opposed to 12% black, nation is sort of something like, correct me if I'm wrong, but something like 12.7% black across the nation. And someone like Georgia is, I think, 31%, something like that. And North Carolina, similar. And you have this advantage. So there's one exit poll I saw that was 83% black, 9%, 83% of black people supporting Harris, 9% Trump, and then the rest others. Some I've seen one poll the other day actually saying 87%, which is higher than Biden's numbers. Now, if that's the case, then somewhere like if you can mobilize those voters and infuse them in Georgia and North Carolina and get those black voters out by raising the general turnout, then that is going to favor the Democrats. So it depends, obviously, what state you're talking about. But in general terms, concerning the battleground states, mobilization is key. The other thing to note is that there are some states so Nevada is one of these, North Carolina is one of these. The others, the independents and the non-affiliated voters, these non-party affiliates are hugely important because they are skewing to the Democrats. Some analyses say, well, maybe 7% to the Democrats. If that's the case, and a third of the voters in North Carolina are these other voters, then that is a massive advantage. So it's really important to have a look at not just the uh, the Republicans and Democrats that have turned out. This is in terms of party registration rather than actual voting data in terms of who they voted for. But in terms of who has turned out to vote, others are going to be the key. Independents are going to be the key to winning these battleground states. And that it might not be looking too good for the Republicans because someone like Charlie Kirk, one of their main kind of surrogates, is saying turnout is mixed and not where we want it to be. We need more people to vote. We can't let turnout flatline. Text everyone you know and make more noise. We need more, which is, I think, fascinating. Can you see me now? Am I still live? I don't know what happened. I think that wasn't even my internet. I think it was StreamYard just went absolutely nuts. Um, Anyway, let's share my screen again, see where it was. So we are going for this one. Okay, so welcome back. I am back. Thank you for your patience, guys. So continuing on in terms of turnout, Philly says voter turnout is extremely high. That's a Philadelphia Democratic Party chairman, Robert Brady, the former congressman. I've been doing elections for 50 years, chair, and I've been chairman for 40 years, and now it's the highest we've ever seen for this point. That's good news for the Democrats, particularly in these places like Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. You're getting a lot of young voters at these university polling stations. So new details from Pennsylvania. Harris campaign is seeing high Puerto Rican turnout in Philadelphia. So go back to the Madison Square Gardens debacle, and you have a serious shot in the foot there, as mentioned, and you have the ramifications here of Puerto Rican turnout being good. As of midday, the 3 wards that contain the highest concentration of Puerto Rican registered voters in the city were already at 79% of total 2020 turnout. Across the board, they are seeing very high enthusiasm among college students. For instance, in Pennsylvania, lines at the campus of Lehigh University are up to 7 hours long. And apparently that is still being the case. So jaw-dropping, this is Lehigh University. And actually, it's just insanely long lines. They're saying, 7 hours of queuing has been reported, and then that goes into the building as well. So jaw-dropping lines at a polling site near Lehigh University, where the line stretches around the block multiple times, and predominantly young people and students. These people are showing up. Amazing. And then we have this is Jonathan Martin. Interesting bit of news here. The sitting GOP governor of Vermont is a Republican, has voted for Kamala Harris. So that's pretty interesting. We have, so this is, check Hamilton County, the burbs north of Indiana. Trump won by 7 in 2020. Harris is now narrowly up with 65% of the vote in. So that's what he's saying about this place in Indiana that we're just looking at. There's Hamilton, which is where it says, oh, no, it's gone up to, I'm sure it just flicked there. But anyway, it's still measuring at 55% at the moment. I'll refresh that screen. It might change. But yeah, the point being that, it's still 55 and narrowly up. But point being that that's really good news for Harris, if that's the case. And there was, I did want to go to, this was the one. Okay. Yeah, it's this one. So he started off saying Philly Dems are projecting optimism both on turnout and possibility that Harris can come out of the city with 475,000 or higher margin. So that's in Philadelphia alone. Right, the concern in Pennsylvania and beyond among Democrats has been the Philadelphia raw votes sagging from 2020. That does not seem likely now. So remember, if the Democrats win Pennsylvania, they pretty much won the election, short of some crazy stuff happening. And if they win Philadelphia by huge amounts, then they're on track to win Pennsylvania. So still long lines at Philadelphia universities. Some optimism among old pros here that Harris can that she can near a 500,000 margin in the city. Quote, if white women in the suburbs do what we think they're going to do, she will win in Pennsylvania, says my source. Philly Dem officials now projecting 50,000 to 100,000 higher raw vote out of the city than what they did in 2020. That is absolutely incredible there. So really, really good stuff from Pennsylvania. Lots of people saying, they're nervous on the live chat, and thank you so much to Paul Gilbert. Feeling nervous, Dan. This is a nail biter hitting my horilka. That's the Ukrainian spirit heavily. Praying for a big blue wave Love your output, JP. Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate you being here with me. Thanks to Kevin Forster as well for those ATP Geopolitics memberships. Really appreciate that. Stephen Bendal, I really hope I will sleep well tomorrow night. I'm crossing my fingers. Hope for a win for Harris and Ukraine. I think many of us might be along there with you. Some of you are obviously going to be Trump supporters. I don't know how many, though. Squinton, thank you so much for your super sticker. Really kind of you. And Niels Clement, thank you so much. Or Clement, I don't know, maybe. Thanks for your ATP Geopolitics membership. It's really kind, mate. Right, so moving on. We've got some other turnout things to talk about. Right, Blank State here says, Slate says, confirms my interpretation of Governor Reynolds and Trump's tweets that the GOP is currently behind in Iowa and need a big elections day turnout to overcome the coalition of Dems and Dem-leaning independents powered by older women. And this is what I'm telling you about independents. They are key in a number of swing states, but it could also be the case that they are key in Iowa. Here, Ann Seltzer might be right about Iowa after all. It's now tied going into election day. Women are outvoting men by 10%. If this continues through today till the end, Kamala Harris will win Iowa. And this is why I think Brian Tyler Cohen, for example, has put down on his predictions that the Democrats will win Iowa. So, you know, there are so many variables, lots going on, and you can build up a case for states going either way. Right, we're now going to move on to Nevada just quickly. So just to remind you where Nevada is, because not all of you are American and know what's going on. Particularly, I'm not American and I don't know what's going on. But and just please remember, I am no expert. I'm just a random dude. Although I am admittedly legend of the multiverse, as many of you know, I've got an award somewhere for that. In fact, I might just repurpose my kids' player of the season football trophy as my legend of the multiverse. But anyway, I'm no expert, so this is all just stream of consciousness madness from me. If you can make any sense of it, then well done you. But nonetheless, let's try. Nevada is here now. This is with a number of these places like Arizona as well. It was looking a bit dodgy with early votes. So we had the last week or so, last week of early votes and mail-in votes and absentee ballots and whatnot. And you're looking at the registered, and it depends which state there is, because some states don't have registered and some states do. And so the states that don't, they usually do it on modeling. And that's kind of a bit funky. But I think Nevada is one that does have registered voters. And Arizona, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it for Nevada and Arizona is you look at the registered voters and you're going, there's not quite enough Democrats here. It's all a bit funky. They need to do well on the day. And people were a bit iffy about Nevada, and it's been looking bad for Arizona. But Arizona can definitely be picked out the bag for a couple of reasons. Well, the one reason is Democrats turning up on the day and just pulling out the bag on the day. Absolutely plausible. And the others, the independents, the non-party affiliate type voters, if they turn up Democrat and skew Democrat, then Arizona's in with a real serious chance. So I personally didn't want to put Arizona pink or light blue. I wanted to keep it just beige, but that's a bit of a cop out. Because I think it is a 50-50 toss-up. Nevada, you've got the culinary union there, because you've got Las Vegas. So what's really interesting about swing states? So if we look at all these swing states and let's put them all in beige to remind you where they are. So you've got Georgia, you've got North Carolina, you've got Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Okay, so you've got 7 swing states. If you have an average dotted line across the swing states as kind of bar charts, I was trying to find the image of this. I saw it on CNN earlier today. John King was talking about it. And if you take the dotted line across just the graph as being the kind of non-college educated, college educated, like your average of education, if you like. The swing states, all apart from Nevada, sit exactly on that dotted line. And your deep red states like kind of Alabama and probably, Oklahoma and some of these, Arkansas, they sit below the line on education. And some of these states, Oregon, Washington, and so on, Maine, they sit above the dotted line. So in terms of college education, in other words, the reason why these are battleground states in the first place is on the lines of education. That seems to be one of the dividing lines in the US at the moment. Right? I'm not trying to be elitist. I'm not trying to be say anything other than just explain the data and what is generally understood as being a dividing line in the US. Now, all of these battleground states sit exactly on the education line, and that's why they kind of flip around from Republican to Democrat, and it's just the fight is on there because they're so close. Interestingly, I think Nevada is below the education line. My supposition is that Nevada has like the culinary union, which is really important. So it's like got Las Vegas. There's a lot of sort of working class people working there, but they're quite unionized, and they're still unionized, and there's a really active Harry Reid mechanics going on in Nevada. So it's got a really good provenance. It's got a really good, legacy of the work that Harry Reid did while he was alive in making Nevada have a great ground game, and that makes up the difference, if you like, in the non-college educated section there, to make it a proper swing state. Because you've got very heavily politicized working class people. That's not, and again, I'm not trying to be elitist to say that working class people can't be high information voters and high propensity voters. I'm not, but just in general terms, that appears to be the correlation, and that's why they're talking about the battleground states being defined by education. Anyway. Onwards and upwards. Let's go back to the turnout conversation. Where were we? So yeah, now we go. That was it. We're going on to Nevada. So going back here. So Nevada is one that I think is skewing just towards the Democrats, but it could, if the independents come out well for them, then it could be really, better than the kind of toss-up I'm talking about. If we go back to where was I here? So election day turnout, Clark County, Nevada. So this is going back some time now. Democrats did have an advantage, but it's all about the others. Look at this. The others there, 40%. So this was the graph back some time ago. There is now a newer graph out of exactly this, which I think is important to look at. No, it might be just further down. Yeah, this one. So I think these trend lines overestimate Democrats here, but they are what they are. This is probably the worst case scenario for Republicans. Will likely be better than this. In other words, what he's saying is that as the day goes on, it's looking worse and worse for Republicans. So you can see when I was talking about early votes, it was all looking bad for the Democrats, and people were saying that Nevada was going to be swinging towards the Republicans. But it's not just about the early votes. It's about what happens on the day, and all these things can change. And actually, it did change, and it is changing. And actually, there seems to be a growing difference between Democrats and Republicans in the votes coming in. And then you've got the independents. The independents are, or the other here, are just absolutely smashing it. And if they are skewing towards Democrats, so as I mentioned earlier, there's one claim of 7%, plus 7% Democrats, then, that potentially Nevada's in the bag for the Democrats. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I think turnout's looking pretty good there. Here, John Ralston, who is a bit of an expert on Nevada, who very importantly yesterday declared that he predicted that Nevada would go blue, even given the early vote tally. So on election day 2020, 109,000 Clark County voters went to the polls. So Clark County is your big one in Nevada. Republicans won by 2,000 ballots in Clark County with 109,000. He's saying today, 84,000 have already voted with 5.5 hours left, and Democrats have a 2,000 ballot lead. And again, that's going to be not in the votes, but in registered voters. And of course, then you have this other thing. So it's not just about independence; it's about whether there are more Republicans who are registered Republican who will vote Democrat, vote for Harris, who will cross the aisle, than Democrats who will vote for Trump. And I think that is definitely going to be the case, because we've seen that with all those famous Republicans, 100 of them on stage with Kamala Harris at a rally. You've got Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Jeff Duncan, Jeff Flake, etc., etc. The numbers are huge in terms of legislative Republicans who have crossed the aisle. Now, that has to surely reflect something going on in the rank and file electorate. Otherwise, that's a real weird phenomenon. So we can expect, I think, a number of Republicans to be voting Democrats. And if that is also the case, then even if you have these relatively close numbers, say you had this, all the way to the end, or even the Republicans ahead in a very tight state, you could still build a case that the Democrats can win with the Republicans being ahead, because the Republicans are going to be leaking more towards the Democrats and vice versa. What else do we have? So John Ralston here, almost 40% of the vote is independent. A GOP still with a solid ballot lead, but no, this is 2 hours ago, no mail ballots in here. Repeat after me, all about the independents and mail ballot vote volume in Clark County. Context: in 2020, total election day turnout was 155,000. GOP won by 16,000 ballots. Today, already 129,000, and the GOP by 5,500 ballots. And then if they are leaking those votes to the Democrats, then it'll be even worse. So really interesting from Nevada. Now, Victor Shi, who does work for so pinch of salt and all that, well, not pinch of salt, because literally you can see it with your eyes, does work for the Harris campaign. Holy cow, University of Wisconsin, Whitewater, with a massive long line right now, hours before the polls close. Now, if you're in the line as the polls closed, you are entitled to vote, which is why people keep saying, don't leave the line, stay in the line, stay online, stay in the line. There's a lot of people begging potential voters not to get sort of bored or disheartened. Stay in a line. Now, University of Wisconsin here, massive long line, hours before the polls close, and these people are turning out in huge numbers. Young people. This is what democracy looks like. Thank you, Gen Z, or Gen Z, if you speak weirdly. So what is, I think, a little bit dodgy as far as I'm concerned, is that there are these claims that the long lines, and someone said it on one of my threads earlier, like who was it? It was one of you. Oh, was it Matt Bishop, saying, I've lived in 4 countries and I don't understand. I've voted in 2 countries, and every country I've lived and voted in, or seen votes take place in, there have not been long lines. There've not been long lines like this. We can like, if the US is supposed to be like the paragon of democracy, how have you got 7-hour lines to try and exercise your right to vote? It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, there's a theory that these lines are never bad in Republican areas, and that there are the cynical conspiratorial claim is that it's arranged in such a way that that polling areas that have high black turnout or high youth turnout have longer lines because of the way it's been arranged, and it's just a way of trying to suppress the Democratic vote. Or the Democratic vote happens in places with huge density of population. But still, if you know that's the case, how come something's not been done about this? Like, why is it that there are these huge lines? That is absolutely unacceptable, in my opinion. It is not acceptable for a country like the US to have lines like this. If it's true that some people are waiting 7 hours to vote, that is not acceptable, especially when you're making rules about not being able to give out water in certain lines, as I think it is in Georgia now, and so on and so forth. Ridiculous. Ohio counties are reporting record turnout. All gas, no brakes, run through the tape. But this is a good sign in Ohio. My little brother, who's working a precinct in Franklin County, Ohio, says they are tracking 80% voter turnout. 80% would be a very high turnout rate. John Ralston said an hour ago, going back to him about Nevada, 4 hours left in Nevada and Clark County, where Dems need to drive up turnout. Already it's exceeded its 2020 final day election number. So it's already exceeded the election day. Now, remember, in 2020, there was a pandemic going on. So the election day numbers were lower, and there was a higher mail-in situation, higher numbers for mail-in ballots. Then you've got kind of messing with our ideas of what is the prevailing trend for voting habits. So many people have repeat the mantra that the Democrats vote early, Republicans vote on the day. And actually, that's not been true over time. And it depends where you're talking about around the country. And actually, 2020 kind of drove that home as that the early vote was a kind of Democrat thing. And that was because of the pandemic. And Democrats were generally safer wearing masks more than Republicans, just as a general data point. And were trying to social distance much more, so they were more likely to vote by mail. So there's a big push to do vote by mail, but it was driven by Democrats, and Republicans voted on election day more. Now, what happened, and also Trump was telling people not to do mail-in ballots because whatever. This time round, they were encouraging Republicans to vote early and vote by mail, and as a result, you've got Republicans, not that they are doing anything particularly weird, but they've just returned to their normal voting habits, really. And so you've got far more Republican votes hitting earlier on in the voting process. And that kind of then skews our understanding of what's going on if we're modeling off 2020. So if you look at 2020 trends, you're going, oh my goodness, there are loads more Republican votes early than there were in 2020. That means the Republicans are going to smash this election. Then you're going to be completely wrong, because they were told not to vote early then, and they were told specifically to vote early now. So the Democrats were expecting a surge of Republican votes early in the voting process. And that's exactly what we've seen. And the question is whether those votes are cannibalized off the election day voting, or whether that's going to involve new voters in there as well. If they're just cannibalizing off the election day vote, then the Republicans could be in a spot of bother. But anyway, there are these incredible. This one, Jarrett Renshaw says, sources tell me that Philadelphia vote total, and this was 2 hours ago, will surpass 2020 totals. Some precincts are as high as 150% of 2020 totals. But of course, 2020 will be election day down because of the pandemic. So remember that all the time. Okay, let's just go back to some of you guys being awesome. Brabus Dantioch, I saw such a good little tweet earlier, which is like, if what was it, the wrong anyway, it's a gag to do with the Barabbas, but I'm gonna get it wrong. Anyway, forget the last 10 seconds. Hello team, I'm considering using necromancy to raise the honored dead to influence the election in response to the Republicans' efforts to purge dead people from their voter rolls. Is this a viable strategy? FR though, love you, JP. I think if you can do it, no, I'm not going to advise you doing it because it is cheating, and I abhor cheating. But no, would I like to see that? No, I'm not advocating necromancy. It is morally inappropriate me to advocate such. However, Barabbas Dantioch, thank you so much for the support there. I really appreciate that. Hey ATB, how are you feeling? Freaking tired, mate. That's BTKB. I am somewhat of droopy of the eye. Thank you very much to a YouTube user. That's really kind of you. I don't know which YouTube user you are, so sorry I can't thank you by name, but I really appreciate your support. Mark Bisque hanging out with the cool kids. No, I'm hanging out with the cool kids. Mark, you're the cool kid. Thanks for staying up to do this, JP. Much appreciated. I don't really know what this is yet, Mark. It's me banging on. Okay. Thanks, Mark, though. Really appreciate that, mate. So the cavalry has arrived. This is in response to, was it Stephen Miller? No, it was Elon Musk put out a tweet earlier saying the cavalry arrived, men are going to vote, strong men are going to win the election, or something like that. Some absolute loads of people then flooded the threads with like, all Elon Musk fan club were like, oh yeah, strong men, it's about time men, blah blah blah, and all this kind of male loving thing of like how wonderfully strong men are, and it's only strong men that can save the election, etc., etc. Anyway, someone says back to that, the cavalry has arrived and it's female. 18.8 million have voted early in the 7 swing states, and by the way, this is going back 4 hours. 1.8 million more women have voted than men. 54.9% to 45.1%. Gender turnout gap, plus 13% in Pennsylvania, plus 12 in Georgia, plus 11 in North Carolina, plus 10 in Michigan, plus 7 in Wisconsin, plus 5 in Arizona, plus 1 in Nevada. And interesting that the Arizona and Nevada are the ones that are like slightly more not sure about that. So, I think women are going to be driving a Kamala Harris win to a large degree, but also men are not swinging towards the Republicans as much as they were previously. So apparently, according to one, was it an exit poll? No, it wasn't. I think one poll I saw earlier today was saying that the gender gap had gone from plus 16, was it, to men, down to plus 4 for men, something like that, or plus 11. I think it's plus 16, something like that. Anyway, huge drop in male support for Trump, which is significant as well, because that was one of the demographics that the Republicans were really banking on. Here we have Trump favorability shift in an exit poll from NBC. So the exit polls, it's really interesting because there's a bit of a joke about exit polls. Where have I seen it? No, I've got it somewhere. UK exit polls. Bing bong, here's a prime minister. US exit polls. Is it better to be loved or feared? Give your answer to the nearest qubit. So what happens is we're getting these exit polls that are coming out, and it's not who you're going to vote for particularly. It's like asking all these kind of much more abstract questions about, or what's your main thing that you fear about the election, or this, or what's driving your electoral choice. I think that is because they're not allowed to ask the question that will drive people's vote and get people to vote in a particular way. So in the UK, it's quite particular. We have a thing called PERDA, which is we are not allowed to report on, none of our media outlets, mainstream media outlets, are allowed to report on the election until the polls are closed. Right? Whereas in the US, I've been watching CNN all day, and it's like, yeah, we'll talk about everything. In the UK, that's seen as possibly affecting the vote. If you've got, say, a Fox News and an MSNBC like reporting on the election as it goes, it can kind of skew your sense of what's going on, and either like motivate you to more likely to vote, but then vote in terms of what you're seeing on that day, and there's this feedback loop that is seen as problematic, or it might get you to stay home or whatever. So in the UK, we're not allowed to report on the election until it's over, and so when the exit poll comes out, it's fine for the exit poll to come out because and tell you who everyone voted for as far as the exit poll is concerned, because everyone's finished voting and votes are over. But we close our polls at the same time right across the country because we live in one time zone. In the US, there are 3 time zones, and I wonder whether exit polls have to be much more carefully thought over. So actually, they're not allowed to ask things like, who do you vote for? Because as soon as the exit polls come out in the UK, you basically got a good idea of who's won the election. Exit polls have got more and more accurate to the point where as soon as the polls close, 20 minutes later, you know who's won the election. Which is why she goes, UK exit polls, bing bong, here's the prime minister. You just know, and you don't have this waiting on. The American situation, we're unlikely to find out for an awful long time due to kind of legal challenges, so on and so forth. But anyway, exit polls are at the moment finding all sorts of different stuff. I've not even got this up for you, so you don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? Anyway, here we go. This is, by the way, I was talking about this. This is what she said. Georgina Lee, UK exit polls, bing bong, here's the prime minister. US exit polls, it's better to be loved or feared. Give your answer to nearest qubit. Right, so exit poll here says, NBC one, white favorability for Trump has dropped 8%. Black favorability and Latino favorability has gone up 4%. Why that's significant is that the white is a larger proportion of the population, and so 8% against 8%, you think, well, that's a net. There's no, no gain or no loss. -8 + 4 + 4 is 0. But actually, 8% drop for a larger proportion of the population is much more significant. And therefore, you're possibly understanding that Trump's favorability has dropped from 2020, right? And if it's dropped from 2020, then that surely means that fewer people are going to vote for him. And if that's an exit poll that is accurate, then that is really, really good news for the Democrats. Right, but yeah, lots of exit polls. Here's one in Iowa on the right, and a general exit poll of Harris voters on the left. And it shows what's driving people's, what's the most important thing. Democracy, abortion, economy, essentially. And then you've got immigration and foreign policy as well, but much, much lower. And it's sort of reverse for the Republicans, but that falls completely in line with the Des Moines Register and Seltzer poll from the other day. So it kind of gives a sense that, as Ryan Goodman here says, remarkable how closely the preliminary exit polls on election day match the Iowa poll. Harris voters with the future of democracy at the top of the agenda for them. Yeah. So there are lots on exit polls. This is the one in CNN. Oh, you don't have sound. I'd have to play that separately. Anyway, that without him speaking, I'll talk you through it. So the CNN exit poll had democracy being at the top of people's lists of concerns. That's across all voters at 35%, but that's mainly driven by the Democrats. Economy at 31%, abortion, immigration, foreign policy. And then he goes on to show what it is with each different. Oh no, we haven't got it on this video. So what you have is these five opposite to each other, with the Democrats and the Republicans, broadly speaking. So the democracy one is top for the Democrats, but not so much for the Republicans. Anyway, I can't show you that because it's not on that video. Right. Okay. Going to look at a few other things before we see if there's any other news coming out. Let's have a look. Hopefully you guys are all right. That's really kind of you, by the way, Tremors. Missed your fundraiser, so here's a few pints from me. Do you know what? I really could do with a pint now. I have done so much speaking today and not enough drinking of any type. Michael Vucher, thank you. Keep up the solid work. Solid as usual. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate you dropping by from the United States of Canada. Super sticker from Ole Nielsen. Some Danish love there. Thank you. Really appreciate that, Ole. A little whiskey shot, Mark. Thanks, JP. Wife will berate me for staying up, but just had to catch you live. Time for a wee dram of port for lubrication. Oh, I've got some port next door. Oh, do you know what? I might have to just pause the live stream and go and get my bottle of port. Oh, that's so tempting. Would you allow me to do that? Julian Roster, thanks, mate. Get some shut eye, or you'll be rougher than a badger's ass in the morning. This is true. This is almost certainly true. Michael gifting 5 ATP Geopolitics memberships. Thanks, Michael Vucher. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, all of you, for your kindness. Right. Moving on, we have Daniel Dale, who's a fact checker at CNN. He's really good, actually, at his fact checking. I love those sections. Now, we've had a bunch of things happening. What's happened today? There have been 2 poll stations that were cleared out due to bomb threats that apparently came from Russia. So Brad Raffensperger, what is he? No, he's not the Attorney General. He's Lieutenant Governor, is he? No, he's not. He's his Secretary of State for Georgia, Republican, has said that Russia were behind those 2 bomb threats. So that's nuts. Russia getting involved directly with interfering in the American election. And I think there have been subsequent bomb threats since then. I don't know the details of those. What has happened is that they have evacuated these polling stations, but now already the judge has, in the Superior Court's judge, has said that they can keep those polling stations open longer. So that's really good. We want people to be able to vote. We don't want to punish them, not allow them to vote because of interference from abroad. But obviously that means that then it takes longer to count those votes, etc., etc. but that's one bad thing. So you've got your bomb threats issues, and then you've got Trump saying. So Trump said this on Truth Social. He said a lot of talk about massive cheating in Philadelphia. Law enforcement coming. The problem is that is a lie. Law enforcement isn't coming because there isn't massive cheating. So why is he saying this? From my colleague, the Philadelphia Police Department, says Daniel Dale, and fact-checking this, told CNN they are not aware what Trump was referring to and did not know of any issues with voting that required a law enforcement response. So he's lying. So why is he lying? So and this is a problem. Like, he should be invalidated, in my opinion, for running for president for just repeatedly lying to the electorate. But he's lying about that because he wants to cast doubt on areas where the Democrats are doing the best, which is cheating in very tight places and places like Pennsylvania, which is arguably going to be very tight, but also these areas like Philadelphia, where the Democrats are doing particularly well. So, yeah, breaking news: a Georgia Superior Court judge extends voting into Atlanta area precincts after bomb threat led to evacuation. So that's that. Now, I can't believe this. Is Tommy Vitor from the Pod Save America team. I am blown away. Again, America, greatest democracy on earth, sort of. It's only got it's a two-party system, so it's a bit of a crap democracy, is my opinion. And I've said that for a long time. You know my opinions on first past the post and the narrowest form of democracy. It's not the greatest democracy on earth, but my goodness, it's important. Okay. But America, you know, at the forefront of technology, etc., still got 7-hour queues to vote. So that sucks. And then you're doing signature matches in certain places. Not everywhere, but Nevada is having to have a bunch of people. I think there was sort of 2,500 ballots are going to have to be queued, which means they're going to have to phone people to say, your signature doesn't match what we've got on record for your driving license. And then then you have to come in and sign it again and blah, blah, blah. But they're saying no one's picking up their phone to the Electoral Commission or whoever. And so the chances of actually getting these people back, you've got some time after the election to get them back. So they can be added into, you know, post facto into the counts. But it's whether you can get people to come back. But like, what are you doing having an election in the US in 2024 where you're comparing freaking signatures? If I had to go and sign with my MS, right, my handwriting, it ain't working these days. I can't feel my fingers. Holding a pen's difficult. Goodness me, I struggle with cutlery enough because it sucks to be me. So, yeah, signatures, bizarrely outdated. So also alongside all of this, there are these legal challenges that are going on, and we know that the GOP has been putting in loads of legal challenges right throughout the last couple of years ahead of this election. And likewise, people like Democracy Docket and Mark Elias, who have been working freaking day in, day out, 24 hours, 28 hours a day in order to stop things like this happening. And it's kind of this this cat and mouse game of lawfare concerning voting. And it's so depressing because the raison d'etre for all of this is trying to stop people from voting, trying to make it as hard as possible for people to vote. And that's literally the opposite of what people in America should be doing. You should be making it as easy as possible to vote so people can exercise their democratic rights without impediments and without barriers to doing so. It frustrates the bejesus out of me. Anyway, happening now, says Carl Cheney, a federal judge in Georgia has thrown out the RNC's claim that Georgia counties broke the law by accepting absentee ballots over the weekend. The judge says their complaint lacked, I love this, quote, a basic level of statutory review and reading comprehension. Ouch, which is to say that stop wasting our bloody time. The judge says the RNC's argument that the counties somehow prevented poll watchers from being present during weekend hours is a red herring, and that some of these counties have done this perfectly legal and well-known process for years. Wow, Judge Baker shreds the RNC for what he says was a cynical attempt to invalidate votes only in Democratic counties, even though other counties were able to use the same procedures. Doing what the party wanted would violate state law. the Constitution and my oath, Baker said. Uh, Baker said the plaintiffs were attempting to, quote, tip the scales of this election by discriminating against counties less likely to vote for their candidate. Baker is urging the GOP lawyers to read The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Please don't use any please don't take us any closer to that ledge, he says. Absolutely incredible. So there you go. No supporting facts, totally inaccurate claims, says the Trump appointed judge. So there you go. Wow, I've said this already. Republican governor of Vermont has voted for Harris. I love this. This is brilliant. So this is, I think, the GOP idea of what a typical liberal voter is. My agenda today, says Megan, vote, then go to a drag show, abortion at lunch, vote again because I'm obviously cheating, sex change in a prison bathroom, put tampons in a men's room because, you know, trans, cast some spells while listening to Taylor Swift, eat pets for dinner in Springfield, and take illegals to vote. I just absolutely love that. Love it. Nice bit of just tongue-in-cheekness there. You'll let me have that. Right. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this, let me know what you think here. This is Donald Trump standing next to Melania Trump that is not Melania Trump, doesn't take off her sunglasses at the Trump HQ. Now, what is going on here? I can tell you what's going on here. It seems to me that Melania Trump doesn't like Donald Trump, hasn't been seen with him apart from like one or two occasions on the campaign trail when she's absolutely had to, and then is now turning up with a different face and a pair of sunglasses on. So let me know whether you think that's Melania Trump or not. Here we have Melania Trump. Why is Trump using a fake Melania today, says this person. Doesn't look like her. This is not Melania, says another source here. And that isn't Melania. It's not Melania Trump. Still wearing her sunglasses, still not particularly looking like Melania Trump. Yo, am I crazy or is that a fake Melania standing next to him? So everyone's talking about this to the point to the point that you get that kind of meme going around. Like, again, I said this in one of my videos earlier, but why would you vote for someone whose wife doesn't even endorse him, whose daughter appears to have been AWOL for the last however long, and whose 17 out of 18 cabinet members have not endorsed him, and the other cabinet member has been sent to Coventry, where he's not speaking to her, which that's a British saying. If you're sent to Coventry, like, no one speaks to you or whatever. I can't put the sound on this, but I just want to. This to me is quite incredible because part of the reason I think that there's been this lack of enthusiasm for Trump recently is that his rallies, like I've said to you many times, have been really low energy and poorly, I think, received, comparatively so. And he's veered into just invective and outright insults that would have invalidated someone from running years ago. There's a really good analysis of this on the Rest's Politics podcast earlier today. In fact, it's from this video here, but we're not going to listen to that bit. That talks about. In fact, you can't listen to that. Oh, we can actually. I can put the sound on. In fact, I'm going to put the sound on this because I think it's useful. So I just want to talk about this. So we'll present the screen and we're going to go to that one. Okay, so you should be able to hear this now.
She's a crooked person. She's a bad person. Evil. She's an evil, sick, crazy. Oh, no. It starts with a B, but I won't say it. I want to say it.
So the idea is that he's basically called Nancy Pelosi a evil, sick, crazy bitch, right? He said, "Bet I won't say it," but he's called, scum and all sorts of invective, right? and you had JD Vance saying we need to take out the trash, as in Kamala Harris. Then it was their insinuation that she's standing on a street corner. In other words, she's a prostitute, and all sorts of stuff like this. And you're thinking, what has happened to the public discourse that we've got to this point where that's acceptable? And in the Restless Politics podcast and actually the Restless Politics US with Katty Kay, they're talking about how it's really interesting because his surrogates and people associated with the campaign can't do that. So if you go back to the Madison Square Gardens rally, like Tony Hinchcliffe couldn't get away with saying stuff like that, but Trump apparently can. He's forgiven all sorts. What is it that's going on whereby he is forgiven for saying crazy stuff and offensive stuff, and other people are still invalidated rightfully from saying that kind of stuff? But that's today, I think it was today or yesterday. It's just, how is that acceptable? Anyway, I just think it's not cool. And in that kind of frame of thinking, I just want you to, I mean, these are predominantly British people. You got Anthony Scaramucci there, but the rest of them are British. You got Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. Rory Stewart's a Conservative, Alistair Campbell's a Labour. These are political people. Rory Stewart's a former politician and ran for the mayor of London, actually, and also I think ran for the head of the Conservative Party. But anyway, this is his opinion on the state of affairs.
Whatever the causes of this are, we're looking at something really, really disturbing. I mean, if I'm wrong, right, and Donald Trump wins this election rather than Kamala Harris, it feels to me like a much, much more shattering blow than it was the first time round in 2016. And the guy spent 4 years in office. He has been convicted now of felony. We know far more about him than we did before.
Immunity.
If he's re-elected now, he's re-elected at a very different moment. It's a moment where, as Alistair and I keep pointing out, the AfD is now stronger in Germany. Kikel in Austria has just taken the most votes.
Le Pen on the march.
Le Pen is on the march. Netherlands changing. I mean, now suddenly Orban's fantasies of a world of strong men have shift away from all the fantasies of liberal democracy in the 1990s, feels much more. And I suppose what I'm trying to get to is, we can be academic about the causes, whether it's social media or whether it's real economics. But the fact of the thing will be just kind of shatteringly disturbing.
And the people around him this time are so much more organized. They have a plan. They have some things they want to do, and we know a lot about them.
It's also the thing I find absolutely incredible. In fact, David Miliband, who was where the Mooch was sitting a few minutes ago, he talks a lot about this being the era of impunity, that people can do terrible things and get away with it.
This is the key point to this excerpt that I want you to hear.
Politics, in business, and whatever. I think in America, for an American president to be elected whilst you were talking on the podcast the other day about, was he breaking his bail conditions by some of the things he's been doing? Because this guy's convicted, he's going to be sentenced in due course. And all of the bad things that he's done and criminal things that he's done. And yet here we are talking about, that we talk about crime without punishment, becoming president after you've committed all these crimes.
We're talking an evening where most people think that it's 50-50, that there's a pretty 100%. Good chance this guy could be president. Even that is
the insurrection.
The January 6th, exactly.
The January the 6th thing is the thing that I find remarkable.
Utterly disqualified.
But everything is good for him. He's created this political weather that he's reversed the laws of political physics. So these things happen, and he gets convicted, and people are like, this will be great for him. This will play well for him. And everything up is down.
Anthony, how on earth could January the 6th happen, his role in it be played out in plain sight, and that is not a disqualifying event for a presidential candidate?
Well, there's a short answer to that: Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy.
Okay,
because this is the only democracy where they were so fragile and they were so weak that profiles in cowardice, where they were jellyfish to Donald Trump. Pelosi had him on the ropes. All McCarthy had to do, and he hates Trump. He may end up as the chief of staff, by the way, but he absolutely hates Trump. He could have called up 10% of his caucus and said, we're voting for this. and McConnell's going to back me in the Senate. We're going to convict him. He's going to get knocked out. McCarthy would probably be running for president. He'd be the strongest person in the Republican Party. If you say, you know what, we've had enough of you. This was my house. I was about to be the Speaker of the House. You sent a mob to ransack my house. We've had enough of you.
So that's
really interesting. And yeah, I've got a lot of time for that kind of disdain for the ability to allow this guy is still to run. It's just for me, it's incredible. And when you add all the kind of felonies and everything else that that I think should invalidate him, everything he says, it's incredible. Anyway, we are where we are, which is that he is challenging and could well be president by the end of this week, I guess. Right. Also interesting that, speaking of which, Donald Trump has been served today. So Trump was served with a summons at Mar-a-Lago in a lawsuit brought by the Central Park Five for defamation. So if you don't know the Central Park Five, goodness me, go and watch what's it called? It's on Netflix. It's the incredible 5-part dramatization of that. It's absolutely staggering. It's a great piece of TV. Something about hear us, until they hear us or something. I'm sure one of you in the live will let me know. Anyway, it's so what's going on, I don't quite know at the moment, because I've been speaking to you, so I'm not sure what's happened in terms of votes and details coming in. I'm sure you guys have been looking elsewhere and probably have a good sense. I mean, unfortunately, I can't tell where these sit against other or the previous election in 2020. We go back to Hamilton, right? Okay, so now that has gone back to, that's a swing now towards Trump. So lots of people getting excited about Hamilton about an hour ago. Now that's swung back towards Trump. So it's going to be interesting. That who knows what's going to be going on throughout the nation, because as you look here, I was just looking while that video was playing. This was 49 minutes ago. CNN exit poll of Georgia independents. So independents need to skew towards Democrats in order for Democrats to win. But they are Trump plus 11, apparently, according to that exit poll. So a 20-point swing towards Trump among independent voters from 4 years ago. That is absolutely terrible for the Democrats. So it'd be interesting to see if that holds. Douglas, Georgia in 2024, Harris up 32, where Biden was up 25 and Clinton was up 11. So that's slightly different. So, it could be all a bit all over the place. This is the talk about Hamilton County and about how that was in Kamala Harris's favor. And that was really big news, like I said at the beginning of the video, but actually that switched back now to being in favor of Donald Trump. I'm not sure what else is sort of happening at the moment. I talked about this. This is Clark County in Nevada, which is going to be incredibly important. If it keeps going in the trajectory we talked about earlier, a Democratic lead and independent share keeps growing in Clark County, and we haven't even gotten to the mail being dropped off yet. So that is looking good for the Democrats there. 12 places now in Georgia are having their hours extended due to the Russia-originated bomb threats, according to Brad Raffensperger. So not just 2 polling stations, 12. So I don't know if there's any other. There's going to be all sorts of news coming in. It's very difficult for me to keep on top of it as I am on my own. Josh Stein, so he's the first Attorney General. This is actually first person who's basically been elected. It's been projected that he has beaten Mark Robinson. If you remember Mark Robinson, he was the guy that had said on that porn forum that he was a black Nazi. Went down like a lead balloon, and it's unsurprising that Josh Stein has beaten him. So that has happened. first positive indicator for Harris in Georgia, with 95% in total for Stevens County. Harris is pulling 18% of the vote, but 22% of the election day vote. Possible we're looking at a red mirage. So that's the idea that early counts come in favor of the Republicans in certain states, in this case Georgia, and so it looks like the Republicans are doing really well, and then these things switch as maybe higher density districts and counties come in later. So that could be happening. Massive warning bell for Harris, though. Someone else saying something here. This is VA, 90% in Virginia. Biden 25 plus 25, Harris plus 17. 8% swing right at the moment in a very educated suburb of Loudoun County. So that is not looking good. Now political polls decision does say Trump is a 72% chance of winning the general election. So we'll have to see what is going on there. His chances are going up by the looks of it, but we shall see. Anyway, a few other bits and pieces to just mention before I probably end this live stream to then go and look elsewhere. Let me know what you guys are finding out in the live stream as well. Elon Musk has completely torqued the algorithm today. Engagement is down 80 to 90% for specific accounts. Pro-Trump content from pro-Trump accounts are nuclear. So that's Dean Blundell saying that it looks like Twitter is favoring certain narratives at the moment. I was going to play you this, but Rachel Maddow absolutely eviscerates Elon Musk and says that he's a national security threat. And being a great defender of free speech, Elon Musk has suspended the Swap Your Vote account, which links one swing state protest voter with two safe state Dems, and this boosts Dems votes in purple states and leftist votes in blue states, etc., etc. We kind of get tactical voting things in the UK as well, but he's closed that account down apparently. So that's Elon Musk doing Elon Musk things. So let me know if there's anything particular that you guys have found out elsewhere. Ohio's just jumped a bit towards Trump, says someone. Kamala up in Pennsylvania, but only 5%. So we'll have to see. Anyway, as I said, I'm going to have to go and find out some more details myself. Let's see if so you guys are still hanging out here. It's going to be a tired work day tomorrow, says Stupidity in Essence from Denmark. But thanks for driving this election night. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just looking at some of the news coming in, it's not looking great all of a sudden, even though earlier on it was looking particularly positive for Harris. But it's always so difficult when things come in at different rates, depending on what counties are declaring. But if it's like for like, and things are not looking good, like that particular county in Virginia, then that is not good news for Harris, is it? So King Raccoon, please give this to P for a new quad. Pierre, Puck Trump, praying the girls win. Thank you for that, King Raccoon. A really, really kind. Yeah, we're going to get a fundraiser for a quad up and running at some point, so I will remember that. But also, please remind me. My memory is not the greatest. Mark Bisque, Olena has something very important to say. For God's sake, JP, have a glass of wine to get through this stress. Do you know what? I think I bleeding well might. Thanks, Olena. That's given me all the permission I needed. To be honest, and thanks, Mark. That's really, really very generous of you as ever, mate. Von Rees, I'm sorry, I had more hope in my state, and thanks to the Weasel for your support. So Von Rees, yeah, I don't know what's going on at the moment because I have been into looking at what I had already set up for you. Small percentage reporting is still stupid early. Yeah, exactly. And this is the issue. That you get all sorts of scare stories, but the problem is when you have, as I said, like for like ones, like a county that reported in a particular way and is showing a skew towards one person or the other is a kind of like for like. So that's good news. Fulton County in Atlanta has counted more than half of its votes, and Harris is on track to match Biden's performance there. That's super important. There was, what was the win in Georgia? Was it 0.3%? Biden won Georgia, so it is a knife edge there. And if she can eke out some advantage in Georgia, then that's really important. Texas reporting 54% Trump, 44.6% Harris. My opinion is that Texas will not flip, almost certainly not flip, but you might get Colin Allred come in. It might be a bit of a sort of split ticket going on there if there's an undercounting. So if people just tick the ballot, if you like, for Trump, but not really bother down ballot, especially since Ted Cruz is not very popular. It's early signs in Chesterfield County, a suburban Richmond. Harris is outpacing Biden's number. Biden won the county by +6. So I think it's going to be all over the place, really. And there are going to be places that could be quite scary, but they might be anomalous. Interesting. Boone County, 91% completed. This is an hour ago. Suburban area around Indianapolis. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned, I can't do the comparisons. So it's going to be one of these, somewhere around there. Boone County. Who knows which one? Anyway, one of these has counted, almost finished counting. I don't know which one. Trump won at 18.5% in 2020. He leads by 10 right now. So that's an 8-point swing to the left. Let's see if that holds or the swing gets cut down more. That's the type of swing Harris wants more of tonight in the suburbs. And yeah. Hamilton County. Yeah, that was an hour ago. That's changed, unfortunately. So when you have smaller counties as well, I mean, it's easier to skew them one way or the other. It's just the nature of statistics. Some bad early, this is 31 minutes ago, some bad early results in Georgia for Harris. Currently 4 counties, 95% reported, which are Trump +2, Harris -2 versus 2020. So that's not very good news there. So goodness me, we'll have to, I don't know, I'm getting more nervous now than I was certainly earlier today. Estimate for Dem final margin about 9,000 for Clark County. That's Nevada. That would be very good. I expected Republicans to slightly win Clark on the election day by registration. Dems will do so instead, gaining perhaps 9,000 votes on the margin. The bigger factor here is the others. I strongly suspect that if Dems are winning election day voting, others will lean Democrat as well. So that would put Nevada in a good place. So if we go back to here, that's what I have there. Nevada looking like it will go to the Democrats. And if I put my swing states back into where I had done, that is what I had. And I did have North Carolina and Georgia. But of course, you know, like I say, okay, Pennsylvania is looking really good for Harris at the moment. But then if you start seeing other places like Virginia go, then things get a little bit funky. And you have to mitigate that with gains elsewhere that you weren't expecting. And so, yeah, it's knife edge stuff, isn't it? And we knew it was going to be close, but you know, some of those enthusiasm gaps I thought would translate into voting gaps, but who knows? But it is too early to tell. It just gets slightly depressing when Decision Desk live forecast has a chance of winning of Trump going up. But then, you know, surely that is early days at the moment. But yeah. Yeah, huge news. This is an hour ago. Johnson County, Iowa's most Democratic county, is on track to shatter turnout records tonight. So that could be good. But then if it's shattering records, you know, that's assuming that is going to be in Democrats doing that in the Democratic leaning county, but it might not necessarily be the case. Yeah. Lots of news coming in. Kevin, I really appreciate that. JP, have a pint for American democracy. That's what finer reason to have a pint. Yes. Any other news from you guys in the live chat? I don't know if there's anything you guys have to let me know about particularly. It's over. Exit polls are showing 70% of voters are unhappy or angry on the direction of the country. Yeah, Ranger Horse. So I was looking at this on the panel, right? CNN were talking about this, and this is that's obviously you are pro-Republican, fair enough, but the issue with making that claim is that if 70% of voters are unhappy with and angry with the direction or angry with the direction of the country, and yet the polls have consistently said it's a 50-50 split, then that means 20% of that 70% are going to be people who are going to vote for Harris. So why are they angry at or unhappy at the direction of the country? So that can be read in many ways. Like if I was a Democrat in America and I was asked whether I was happy with the direction of the country, I'd have to be working out whether I was thinking in terms of what Biden has done with the economy or with what Trump is doing and how Trump is trying to take the country in a worse direction. And I hate the polarization of the country and the divisive nature of the rhetoric, the political rhetoric. So you can interpret that in loads of different ways. I think it's pretty disingenuous to think that is all attributed, because you have to then say 70% of the voters are going to vote Trump. Whereas 70% of the voters are going to vote Trump, it will be an absolute whitewash, and it's not going to be an absolute whitewash. And so therefore that's an incorrect interpretation of that exit poll data. So there you go. Never mind a pint. If I was American, says Pete Burkett, I would be looking for some Valium. Yes, I know it was. Yeah, it is all a bit. It's all a bit. My heart is actually racing a little bit at the moment. There's just so much riding on this. So as I mentioned, early voting in Georgia skewed older and GOP within the same county. Election day looks a lot bluer. We are possibly looking at a red mirage. So yeah, that could be what's going on. Breaking news. Elon Musk's big voter giveaway just took a turn. Voters who signed up for the $1 million sweepstakes are now filing a suit against Musk and the America PAC, claiming they were misled on how the winners were chosen, according to Bloomberg. That's exactly how it should be. So the lawyers for Elon Musk, if you remember that he was giving away $1 million for people who signed a petition for sort of constitution, pro-Second Amendment, blah, blah, blah. But it's a way of harvesting data, really, as far as I can work out. And he said it was going to be a lottery. And then the defense, because the lottery thing was more problematic within the confines of the law, the lawyer said, well, as a defense, it wasn't actually a lottery. What we did is we pre-selected people that would be really good that we knew that would be good advocates for the petition and for whatever. And we chose them. And then it kind of gets around the problem of it being a lottery. And then people have gone, hang on, I only signed that because I thought I had a chance of winning because it was a lottery. And now you're telling us it's not a lottery. And now I've signed all my data away, blah, blah, blah. So actually, that defense appears to have been a bit of a legal own goal for Musk. So interesting. Yeah, Trump, 62% chance of winning the general election. All of them expected so far. I don't know if there's any other. In a battleground state of North Carolina, with 11% of the estimated vote tallied, Trump has 45.9%, Harris 52.6%, according to Edison Research, as reported by Reuters. Edison Research are an exit poll company, so that looks like exit poll data, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that's because that's good news for the Republicans if that is at all accurate. Yeah, some of this is from a little bit of time ago. Just seeing if there's any other bits of news in my feed here. Otherwise, I am going to, as I keep promising, Pennsylvania update 6 minutes ago, 7% in, Harris 73%, Trump 26. As I say, the election is all about Pennsylvania, because it's 19 electoral college votes and you need to get to 270. So yes, that's a pretty hefty one. But actually, if you start, if you're losing other ones, if some of these other rumors are worth anything, then it could be a bit of a problem. But that's early, and that could change. It might be that particular counties, urban counties, are returning their results first, or whatnot. So CNN exit polls say that Harris is hitting the magic number of 60% with the youth vote in Georgia. So that's interesting. Timu Melania there. I didn't order that, Melania. It's like Wish, ordering from Wish or whatever it is that people do. Kamala Harris, DC, Maryland, and Massachusetts. Trump has won Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Missouri, and Oklahoma. Trump 90, Harris 27. Interesting. So we can see from here. Let's go back to the map. 105 to Trump. Harris 31. So goodness me. So Florida, yeah. Dave Trotter from Voting Trend was like, yeah, Florida is not going to flip blue. He's absolutely adamant about that. Not North Carolina. Interesting. North Carolina's looking good for Harris. Georgia, we've got Republicans looking good there, but some saying that could be a red mirage. Texas, that's fairly close, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. What do we have there? Connecticut. Less than 1% in. Ignore that. What's in for Georgia? 48% in. So again, if you've got your urban counties reporting after your rural ones, then that's where you get these mirages that exist, and things can change really heavily. So yeah. Okay, and any that's 1 hour ago. With 91% in, Trump is ahead in Florida's. Yeah, so I think Florida's going to be. Oh, really? So with 91% in, Trump is ahead in Florida's Osceola County by 1.2%. Osceola County is a big Puerto Rican population, and Biden beat Trump by 14 points in that county in 2020. Goodness me. So actually, that's not, unless that last 9% is going to shift it massively, then that's not good news for Harris. I don't know whether that is anything that can be extrapolated outside of that county. Allegheny County, first drop. So that's Pennsylvania, looking good. I mean, Allegheny County, I think, is very much a pro-Democrat county anyway. It'd be interesting to see what that was last time round, but there's still more to go there, I would have thought. Anyway, Florida votes reject a measure that would have legalized recreational marijuana. Interesting. Yes. Anyway, that's probably enough from me. As Cheryl says, I refuse to panic ahead of time. Yes, I think so. I think I could be stressing though. It's weird because you look at some things and think, oh, Pennsylvania, yeah, it's all fine, and then you look elsewhere and oh my goodness, I need to go and top myself. It's terrible. So yeah, I don't know what to think. Thank you, Mark. JP funds to buy some port from us as long as Harris wins. If not, 40 quid from you will get me a nice seasoned whiskey. Deal? Okay, interesting. So port if Harris wins, and if not, I'll get you a seasoned whiskey. Yep, that is a deal. That's on, mate. That is on. Okay, Let's do it. Oh no, I'm not a betting man, Mark. I'm not a betting man. What are you doing to me? Stupidity in essence. Patience, JP. Patience. I hope so. I hope so, my friend. Fingers crossed. I should have done a poll as to who you think will win now. But I'm actually going to head to go and watch CNN and get either elated or thoroughly depressed, and then go to bed for a short while, have some kind of fever dream, and then wake up in a pool of sweat, hobble downstairs, and either be elated or crushingly defeated. But yes. Yeah, interesting abortion in Florida there. And just finally, we have Aussie T saying, blue wave coming, stay strong. Thanks, JP. Don't watch CNN, just sleep. Yeah, I think you could be right there, Eliana. Okay, trend is clear now. Another one from John Ralston. Democrats increase their lead in Clark County. Independent share goes up. And as long as that independent share does skew towards Democrat, which it generally does with the winning party in the state, I think, then that could be good. So New York Times Electoral College estimate has Trump winning 276 to 262. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. That is just too horrible to consider. That's the New York Times, and they're not going to be making that prediction lightly, are they? Allred takes the lead in the Texas Senate, 38% in. 7 minutes ago. That is a good bit of news. Yeah. Christopher Boozy here says Florida was catastrophic and it wasn't close. The ballot measures had no effect, and the MPA voters broke for Trump. That's interesting. So the non-party affiliates, so the independents in Florida broke for Trump, and Florida was a disaster. Yeah. So I think you are going to have very different results in very different states, and I wonder whether the massive focus on certain background states and forgetting about other states could be a bit of a problem. Be interesting if there could be these surprises in certain states. So it's like focusing on Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. Yeah, good effort. North Carolina, maybe Georgia, maybe we'll have to wait and see. Could bring them home for the Democrats, but then you could let some out the back door, and that could be a little bit controversial. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Okay, right, that's enough. I'm just going to keep on otherwise looking at Twitter with you guys, and that's probably not the best use of any of our time. North Carolina is now super close, 0.1%, says Benjamin. Let's have a look at a couple of these. So we've got Georgia with 51% in. That's Trump 40, almost 55% there, which I think it's too early to say. So there's another 49% coming in. Yeah, but the thing about North Carolina is 14% in. So you've got 86% of the vote still to go. So that it's that close. I don't think you can derive that much from that, to be perfectly honest. So I wouldn't worry, Benjamin. It's when the declared amounts are much higher than that. Virginia, pretty close, 2% in that. West Virginia's being called. My goodness. That's massive, isn't it? Kentucky. I wonder what the previous, I really want to know what, it's really annoying that this version of DDHQ doesn't give you the previous ones. So that's it. Why is that? MS. So that's Missouri. Why is that Kamala Harris president general election 52.1%? It's been called for Donald Trump 47%, less than 1% in. So that's not called. It's not called. That's just, I don't know. I need to go and check that out then. Anyway, oh, Mississippi is not Missouri. I knew it wasn't Missouri. Missouri's up here, isn't it? Yes. I can't even see it. It's too many letters around there. It's Missouri. Yes. So yeah, thank you for checking that out. Right. Okay, that's enough from me. I will possibly come back and annoy you in maybe it's 1:36 my time. Oh, goodness me, maybe 5 hours time. And do another live then. I'll be very bleary-eyed. But I really appreciate you guys sticking with me. I was thinking, it was all looking very positive. Now I'm less positive, but hopefully time will move me towards greater positivity. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Take care, y'all, and hopefully, fingers crossed that the right results are going to come through. Delaware's in with its VBM breaking 75-25 for Harris and 74-24 for Casey. Consistent pattern so far, doing better than the partisan splits everywhere. Now we wait for completed rurals and election day drops. So vote by mail, that is VBN, is vote by mail. So very much going in the Democrats' favor, the vote by mail in Pennsylvania, it seems. Anyway, that's enough. Take care, y'all. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all your real kind support, by the way. Absolutely fabulous. You are too kind. It does allow me to keep doing this. So thank you. And I will speak to you guys probably far too soon as far as my mental health is concerned and my sleep hygiene. Take care and all of the best.